So we are on chapter 12, Sloka 1, devotional service. Arjuna Uvaka Evam Satata Yukaye Bhaktas Tavam Paryuvasati Ya Kapi Aksaram Avakam Tam Tesam Ke Yoga Vitama. Arjuna inquired, which is considered to be more perfect? Those who are properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? Krishna has now explained about the personal, the impersonal, and the universal, and has described all kinds of devotees and yogis. Generally, the transcendentalists can be divided into two classes. One is the impersonalist, and the other is the personalist. The personalist devotee engages himself with all energy in the service of the Supreme Lord. The impersonalist engages himself not directly in the service of Krishna, but in meditation on the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested. We find in this chapter that the different processes for realization of the absolute truth, bhakti yoga, devotional service, is the highest. If one at all desires to have the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he must take to devotional service. Those who worship the Supreme Lord directly by devotional service are called personalists. Those who engage themselves in meditation on the impersonal Brahman are called impersonalists. Arjuna here is questioning which position is better. There are different ways to realize the absolute truth, but Krishna indicates in this chapter that bhakti yoga, or devotional service to him, is highest of all. It is the most direct, and it is the easiest means for association with the Godhead. In the second chapter, the Lord explains that a living entity is not the material body, but is a spiritual spark, a part of the absolute truth. In the 7th chapter, he speaks of the living entity as part and parcel of the supreme whole and recommends that he transfer his attention fully to the whole. In the 8th chapter, it is stated that whoever thinks of Krishna at the moment of death is at once transferred to the spiritual sky, Krishna's abode. And at the end of the 6th chapter, the Lord says that out of all the yogis, he who thinks of Krishna within himself is considered to be the most perfect. So throughout the Gita, personal devotion to Krishna is recommended as the highest form of spiritual realization. Yet, there are those who are still attracted to Krishna's impersonal Brahmayoti effulgence, which is the all-pervasive aspect of the absolute truth, and which is unmanifest and beyond the reach of the senses. Arjuna would like to know which of these two types of transcendentalists is more perfect in knowledge. In other words, he is clarifying his own position because he is attached to the personal form of Krishna. He is not attached to the impersonal Brahman. He wants to know whether his position is secure. The impersonal manifestation, either in this material world or in the spiritual world of the Supreme Lord, is a problem for meditation. Actually, one cannot perfectly conceive of the impersonal feature of the absolute truth. Therefore, Arjuna wants to say, what is the use of such a waste of time? Arjuna experienced in the 11th chapter that to be attached to the personal form of Krishna is best because he could thus understand all other forms at the same time, and there was no disturbance to his love for Krishna. This important question asked of Krishna by Arjuna will clarify the distinction between impersonal and personal conceptions of the absolute truth. Shloka 2. Shri Bhagavan Yuvaka Mai Avasaya Mano Ye Man Nitya Yuka Upasate Shridaya Parayopitas Te Me Yukta Tama Metta. The Blessed Lord said, he whose mind is fixed on my personal form, always engaged in worshiping me with great and transcendental faith, is considered by me to be most perfect. In answer to Arjuna's question, Krishna clearly says that he who concentrates upon his personal form and who worships him with faith and devotion is to be considered most perfect in yoga. For one, in such Krishna consciousness, there are no material activities because everything is done by Krishna. A pure devotee is constantly engaged. Sometimes he chants, sometimes he hears or reads books about Krishna, or sometimes he cooks prasadam or goes to the marketplace to purchase something for Krishna. and sometimes he washes the temple or the dishes. Whatever he does not let a single moment pass without devoting his activities to Krishna. Such action is in full samadhi. Text 3 and 4. I'm laughing because Letitia from Rev is in Wilmington right now in Wrightsville. She just texted me a picture of the beach. Ye tava aksaram aner desaham avatam paripasati sarvatra gam asintayam cha kuta statam akalam durvavam. Saniya Madriya Gramam Sarvatra Sama Buddha Te Prapnuvanti Mam Eva Sarva Bhuta Haitrata. But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, fixed, and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons engaged in the welfare of all at least achieve me. Those who do not directly worship the Supreme Godhead, Krishna, but who attempt to achieve the same goal by an indirect process, also ultimately achieve the supreme goal, Sri Krishna, as it is stated. After many births, the man of wisdom seeks refuge in me, knowing Vasudeva is all. When a person comes to full knowledge after many births, he surrenders unto Lord Krishna. If one approaches the Godhead by the method mentioned in this verse, he has to control the senses, render service to everyone, and engage in the welfare of all beings. It is inferred that one has to approach Lord Krishna. Otherwise, there is no perfect realization. Often there is much penance involved before one fully surrenders unto him. In order to perceive the supersoul within the individual soul, one has to cease the sensual activities of seeing, hearing, tasting, working, etc. Then one comes to understand that the Supreme Soul is present everywhere. Realizing this, one envies no living entity. He sees no difference between man and animal because he sees soul only, not the outer covering. But for the common man, this method of impersonal realization is very difficult. Text 5. Kleso dikataras tasam avyakta settasam avyakta hai gater dukam dehavadbir abhagyati. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. The group of transcendentalists who follow the path of the inconceivable, unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord are called Jnana Yogis. And persons who are in full Krishna consciousness, engaged in devotional service to the Lord, are called Bhakti Yogis. Now, here is the difference between Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga is definitely expressed. The process of Jnana Yoga, although ultimately bringing one to the same goal, is very troublesome, whereas the path of Bhakti Yoga, the process of being in direct service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is easier and is natural for the embodied soul. The individual soul is embodied since time immemorial. It is very difficult for him to simply theoretically understand that he is not the body. Therefore, the Bhakti yogi accepts the deity of Krishna as worshipable because there is some bodily conception fixed in the mind, which can thus be applied. Of course, worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his form within the temple is not idol worship. There is evidence in the Vedic literature that worship may be saguna or nirguna of the Supreme possessing and not possessing attributes. Worship of the deity in the temple of saguna worship for the Lord is represented by material qualities. But the form of the Lord, though represented by material qualities such as stone, wood, or oil plant, is not actually material. That is the absolute nature of the Supreme Lord. A crude example may be given here. We may find some mailboxes on the street, and if we post our letters in those boxes, they will naturally go to their destination without difficulty. But any old box or an imitation, which we may find somewhere, which is not authorized by the post office, will not do the work. Similarly, God has an authorized representation in the deity form, which is called Akra Vigraha. This Akra Vigraha is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. God will accept service through that form. The Lord is omnipotent and all-powerful. Therefore, by his incarnation as Akra Vigraha, he can accept the services of the devotee, just to make it convenient for the man in conditioned life. So for a devotee, there is no difficulty in approaching the Supreme immediately and directly. But for those who are following the impersonal way to spiritual realization, the path is difficult. They have to understand that the unmanifested representation of the Supreme through the Vedic literatures through such Vedic literatures as the Upanishads, and they have to learn the language, understand the non-perceptional feelings, and they have to realize all these processes. This is not very easy for a common man. A person in Krishna consciousness engaged in devotional service simply by the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, simply by offering regulative obeisances unto the deity, simply by hearing the glories of the Lord, and simply by eating the remnants of foodstuffs offered to the Lord, realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead very easily. There is no doubt that the impersonalists are unnecessarily taking a troublesome path with the risk of not realizing the absolute truth at the ultimate end. But the personalist, without any risk, trouble, or difficulty, approaches the Supreme Personality directly. A similar passage appears in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It is stated there that if one has to ultimately surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this surrendering process is called bhakti, but instead takes the trouble to understand what is Brahman and what is not Brahman, and spends his whole life in that way. The result is simply troublesome. Therefore, it is advised here that one should not take up the troublesome path of self-realization, because there is uncertainty in the ultimate result. A living entity is eternally an individual soul, and if he wants to merge into the spiritual whole, he may accomplish the realization of the eternal and knowledgeable aspects of his original nature, but the blissful portion is not realized. By the grace of some devotees, such a transcendentalist highly learned in the process of Jnana Yoga may come to the point of Bhakti Yoga or devotional service. At that time, long practice in impersonalism also becomes a source of trouble, because he cannot give up the idea. Therefore, an embodied soul is always in difficulty with the unmanifest, both at the time of practice and at the time of realization. Every living soul is partially independent, and one should know for certain that this unmanifested realization against the nature of the spiritual blissful self. One should not take up this process. For every individual living entity, the process of Krishna consciousness, which entails full engagement in devotional service, is the best way. If one wants to ignore this engagement in devotional service, if one wants to ignore this devotional service, there is the danger of turning to atheism. Thus, the process of centering attention on the unmanifested, the inconceivable, which is beyond the approach of the senses, as already expressed in this verse, should never be encouraged at any time, especially in this age. It is not advised by Lord Krishna. I will stop there at text 6. I lost my pen.
So is this saying basically you got to have faith? I mean, to me, Alexandra, you shook your head yes. Yeah. Okay.
But what was impressive is that they're saying that you don't necessarily have to do it all with Krishna. I guess it's saying, it's respecting other people or other ways. As long as you're doing the right thing, you're still gonna get there. That I thought was neat that they put that in there, because it's not like, hey, all Krishna, it has to be all Krishna.
I think of the elevator example and the stairs. Do you remember when we read about that? Like, I think this read as like, you can go the bhakti way and just get in the elevator and go straight to Krishna, or you can go the Jnana Yoga way and take the stairs. and read all the books, and you'll still get to the top, but it's just going to take you a little bit longer. But watch
I
out.
also read that I also understood from this that if you're taking the stairs, you will get up to the top, but getting up to the top means realizing what the Bhakti Yoga person knew all along, that you are, in essence, placing your faith in this, what they call a personalized.
Yeah, I think so too. And like, I think that you're taking the stairs, watch out for the fake, like the fake mailboxes, you know, like when you're taking the stairs, watch out, you know. And I think that to me looked like the transition into the bhakti world. That's the faith part to me.
I thought of
I think the
Arjuna
faith
and
part is you better, in the end, if you are, in the end, you will enter into Krishna consciousness, which means you basically will have a belief in a personalized being, and because you will have moved away from the impersonal. You will have moved away from the impersonal, so everybody's going to end up in the same place.
I just think it's funny because I don't feel like I identify as much with the Jnana Yogi, in the sense that like I don't need to like overly research things. Like usually I'll just like do it. But with religion and this spiritual, I had to read the book, but I'm already like, all right, I'll just get in the elevator. I'm ready to get off the stairs. It's just easier to just have faith. You just got to have faith. And I pushed that away for so long. Like I just couldn't have it. But now it's like, oh, it is just easier. And it's like that same idea that I always talk about when I'm in the kitchen cooking, and like people tell me, oh, it's so easy to cook. And I'm like, it is not easy to cook. And then you start practicing and you're like, I made a whole soup yesterday without a recipe book. I just threw a bunch of things in the pot and it came out delicious. Other people might not like it, but I don't care about other people. I just care that it was good to me. And so, yeah, it does get easier, but it gets easier when you do things, when I do things my way and I stop listening to other people. But it is a little scary still with the faith, and I think it just takes more practice. Like, I guess because I'm such a planner, it's hard for me to have faith. Like, do you have faith to just go on a road trip when there is a gas situation going on? You just have faith that the gas will be there? Like, that's scary to me, that I need to like plan. Or do I just have faith that everything will work out exactly how it will be? And that's how it is. And if I get stuck on the side of the road, then that's what's meant to be. All right. It's so beautiful outside. If you have not been out yet,
it looks it.
I want you guys to enjoy this beautiful day. We'll start meditation and breath work. If anyone else has anything to share first. And so we will take a break next week. We'll meet the following Monday. I hope you all have a beautiful day and weekend and week.
Me too.
Enjoy your week, Pam. It sounds wonderful.
I have complete faith, Sue, that I'm going to fully enjoy my week.
Good.
Enjoy your time off, Pam.
Thank you. All right, so let's sit up nice and tall. Take a few breaths in through the nose and out through the nose. Bring your right hand over to your nose. Close right nostril with the thumb. Inhale through the left. Close left. Exhale right. Inhale right. Close right. Exhale left. Inhale left. Close left. Exhale right. Inhale right. Close right. Exhale left. Inhale left. Close left. Exhale right. Inhale right. Close right. Exhale left. A few more rounds on your own breath, adding your locks and retention if it's part of your practice. When you feel done, you'll exhale out the left side. I'm going to do 3 rounds of bumblebee breath if you want to join me. Close the ears with the thumbs, peace fingers over the eyes. You'll inhale and exhale with the lips sealed, creating a humming sound with the exhale, vibrations flowing through the body. Inhale. I'm going to set the timer and you'll join us when you're ready. Bringing hands to heart center. Namaste.
Namaste.